this market is growing. Some estimates say 50% a year. Some estimates say 100% a year. But Satya and many other leaders kind of talk about the secular shift. We're at the beginning of a new curve. So we're seeing these opportunities and this growth rate, not only over the short term, but the vision is that this is going to last a number of decades. So I see a massive opportunity for our partners to enable scenarios like this.
Welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Executive Enablement Series, where we speak with Microsoft Cloud senior leaders and experts about the latest trends in technologies we're seeing in the market. The goal of this series is to share with you and your teams our perspective on the business value driven by the Microsoft Cloud for our mutual customers, and the opportunities for our partners to grow their business with Microsoft.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karuana Gatimu, and I am so happy to be back with you today. I have Jesse Alleyne with us, and he is going to talk about Microsoft and manufacturing and AI. So let's hop in. Jesse, welcome.
Thank you, Karuana. Great to be here.
I'm very glad you're here. I know you have a wealth of experience in this space. How did you end up across from me today?
Well, I actually started my career as a mechanical engineer, designing subsea robotics, ground support equipment, and oil filters for about a decade. Then my path kind of led me to Microsoft, where I started in Detroit, focused on the automotive industry, and then worked on our industry team for about a decade as well. So today I'm supporting some of our largest customers on their digital transformation journeys.
That's excellent. I usually find that there's always some personal tidbit in there of people in the jobs that they have in the Microsoft ecosystem. I hope you love what you do.
Absolutely. It's fantastic.
There are so many Microsoft solutions that support the digital transformation across the manufacturing value chain. Those are a lot of words that our partners have been hearing for some time. What's the real opportunity for them at this moment?
Our customers are sharing the feedback that the overall platform is what is aiding them with their digital transformation. So as we kind of look left to right, it's everything from security, when it's how do I secure our company's crown jewels and our ERP system, to productivity, how do I help my employees add more value across how they like to work, application development and infrastructure. How do we create these new and modern experiences for our customers? Business applications. How do we really speed time to value for these core systems? So our customers are really giving us the message that it's not whether it's a capability or an application is driving their digital transformation. Microsoft is kind of ingrained across the organization. So it's really how the particular solution is driving their digital transformation.
That makes a lot of sense. So now, of course, we're in the era of AI. And I keep saying that I can't believe that I'm sitting here having real world conversations about artificial intelligence on a regular basis now. But what AI initiatives and technologies are at play in this space?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I think I'd kind of reframe it as to what are the company initiatives that are being accelerated by AI, right? And we kind of see kind of three main areas that are really being driven there. The first one is around kind of customer experience. So if we think about front office with sales, marketing, and service, that's one area that's being accelerated. The next area is around operations. So in manufacturing, that is everything on the factory floor, but also supply chain, logistics, et cetera. And the third area is really around productivity. So that is really driving innovation, but across the business, that could be in finance, accounting, engineering, operations. How they really drive productivity in that space is really important. Now, the underlying technologies there, generative AI is kind of the buzz term today, but we're really seeing a lot of opportunities, not only in kind of what we historically viewed as AI, just 12 months ago, it was AI, but now it's a new AI. And we're seeing the application of that capability really merge with kind of this language interface, this ability to generate new images across those areas. And what's really differentiating or making those areas hotspots for AI is the data, right? So our customers kind of play with ChatGPT uh, at home, and they come to the organization kind of energized, and they look for the areas that they have the cleanest data to get started most quickly.
So, Jesse, help me understand this. When I think about manufacturing, I think about the physical universe, physical stuff that is being built. And now we're applying AI to it and digital improvements. How do these two things actually go together?
It's a really interesting question, and I get it. I get it a lot. And it is true that manufacturing is physical things, but when you go into a plant or work with a manufacturer, there are a lot of processes in manufacturing, and there's a lot of opportunities to modernize um, processes and systems and physical things that have been the same way for decades. There's a lot of factories that I walk into where a press is from World War II, and now AI can help that company to get more out of that asset by, for example, understanding the tone of the machine, the electrical current of the machine. So there's a lot of opportunities from kind of the factory up. Now, if we think about even supply chain, right, that's been a historically very manual process, and supply chain optimization is very difficult for a human being. But when you give that to AI, or you have the opportunity to kind of solve these multivariate problems very, very quickly and come to new solutions that a human being might not arrive at on their own, and AI might not solve perfectly. So there's the opportunity to kind of try a new path that a human might be able to optimize based on their subject matter expertise in partnership with AI. So while manufacturing is kind of physical and digital and process, I think that's kind of one of the best scenarios for kind of this co-pilot, working alongside AI. You have the digital and you have the physical that a person and AI can use together.
I imagine that when you're talking with folks about AI in their business, people might not always just be jumping on the bandwagon. How do you help partners address customer objections to this sort of evolution?
Very good question, because manufacturers historically are not risk takers. As you can imagine, it's a very capital intensive business, and change is by extension very expensive. So what we try to do with our customers is kind of build a matrix that shows, okay, the size of the problem and kind of the ease of solving it. We will say, okay, this problem is large, and what's your point of view on how difficult it is to solve? And have a conversation around, you might think it's very difficult to solve, but with these tools, we can make it much easier. So we have this discussion about what problem is the best first candidate, what problem to solve kind of helps us solve 50% of the next problem. So we have a discussion about size and value and also order. So we arrive at, the scenario that they're comfortable with the risk reward. And so focusing on kind of that customer problem first and foremost is kind of one of the biggest drivers. The second piece is around people, right? So understanding the particular goals and incentive structure around how a system works today is critical to understand how you can change it, right? So if you address the pushback or the objections of an individual that might be stopping the entire program, you tend to have more success.
So, Jesse, I like to say that AI is coming to your job, not for your job. I think it's more challenging and people have concerns when you start talking about manufacturing. How do you deal with that? And how should our partners deal with those sorts of concerns?
We, on kind of the technology side, I completely agree. It's coming to the job. And how we typically deal with it is that there's still problems to be solved. I always look at it like cruise control on your car. You are still the driver, you're still responsible, but it takes some of the workload, some of the burden off of you. There are certain things that AI does very well. Just like your cruise control, there are certain things that it does not. So, even in the case where AI comes to your job, it's the human being becomes more important to kind of keep an eye on and monitor and watch and manage. I always think about kind of the co-pilots as our workers, right? We're all becoming managers, and they're extensions of us that we now manage, but they allow us to scale. Having that discussion and kind of really thinking through what that means and what that looks like on the factory floor, it is very, very helpful to kind of get over those initial fears of those end workers.
Do you think that's a place where our partners can lean in and help our customers?
Absolutely, absolutely. So what we're seeing really is a lot of this, what we used to call consumerization of IT. You know, all these experiences that employees are having at home, but when they get to the company, there's a lot of ambiguity as to what they can actually use, how they can use it safely. But the buzz is there. Our partners can really take advantage of that buzz to get a foot in the door, right? Take advantage of the leadership that Microsoft has in the space and the relationships that we have in the space to not only have the discussions about data and modernizing their data estates, but then also leveraging those IT relationships and those industry relationships that we've been building to talk about. First, you get those applications modernized, you figure out your environment, and then you can talk about those really exciting and advanced capabilities that generative AI has brought to the table.
These real world use cases are really important for people to understand on an individual level what the technology can do, and then they can scale that across their organization. I'm sure you've seen some amazing use cases. You want to share some of those?
Sure. So I'll start with the call center. And this has really been really exciting to see our customers move from developing products to developing services. So the call center has gone from kind of a cost center, a necessary part of the business to an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for differentiation, an opportunity for customer satisfaction. So when we look at what generative AI can bring to that space, you can have an employee that is fielding a call from one of your customers and get real time coaching, real time sentiment analysis, real time data on the product on which they're speaking. They can get opportunities for cross selling and upselling and kind of building service into the next phase or getting to the next tier of service. So what we're seeing is you can focus on driving efficiency or quality, or even making kind of your least experienced call center person as efficient and as productive as your most experienced call center person, and really scale the knowledge across the organization really efficiently with tools that your employees are comfortable with using. The next area that we're seeing it is really around product design. So companies are looking for not only how can we use the tools that are available, but how do we make this unique to our enterprise? How do we create differentiation with kind of these platforms? So one of those areas for opportunity is kind of drafting, right? So in designing a product, there's a way that companies typically dimension a part and a culture even around that, right? So an experienced engineer will design a product, and then they have to spend a lot of time understanding how do we dimension for supplier X, Y, or Z. But you can kind of upload all of your historical data, all of your historical prints, and offload that to your AI assistant to say, here's a new part, dimension this in the way that fits with our company guidelines and our company culture to make yourself much more efficient. We're seeing that when you use kind of a co-pilot in that way, going from starting from scratch to being kind of the editor, you really improve productivity and quality at the same time. The third use case we kind of want to talk about is the factory floor. So, what's happening in manufacturing is you're seeing 10,000 people per day retiring, right? And you have a new generation that's used to new tools, that are used to kind of changing jobs on a frequent basis. So, companies are really struggling with getting those new employees up to speed and productive very quickly, and also retaining those employees. And what we're seeing is there's a lot of data that comes at these employees. It could be health and safety. It could be, the instructions for assembling a new part. And you can ingest all of that data into a co-pilot for that employee that they can leverage, on their own in private. They can re-ask the same question repeatedly if it wasn't clear the first time. And so they can get really productive really quickly. The other thing that we're seeing is it gives employees that are retiring the ability to leave a legacy. So all of that knowledge that they have, they can ingest it into a platform, and they can share it with the next generation as well. So those are a couple of opportunities or use cases that we're seeing that are really transformative with generative AI.
I love that legacy example. I think it's something that we don't talk enough about, especially in manufacturing. There's so much knowledge there in those employees that are retiring. For an organization to be able to capture that and build upon that, it's great for employee morale. It's great for the organization. It's great for creating that culture of knowledge sharing. I love that example.
Absolutely. What we're also seeing in manufacturing is not only these use cases, but the growth, right? So we're seeing this market is growing. Some estimates say 50% a year. Some estimates say 100% a year. But Satya and many other leaders kind of talk about the secular shift. We're at the beginning of a new curve. So we're seeing these opportunities and this growth rate not only over the short term, but the vision is that this is going to last a number of decades. So I see a massive opportunity for our partners to enable scenarios like this.
There's got to be some risks and challenges that come with that, and especially around adopting AI in manufacturing. How can our partners help navigate this?
What I'm seeing from our customers is this kind of breaks out into two buckets: people slash change management and technology. And what we're seeing from a people and change management perspective is it's really important, if you identify a use case, to make sure that you're bringing everyone along, right? So everyone can kind of see what the new version of their job looks like, and you can have that conversation about kind of enablement versus replacement. But on the other hand, it's also really important to get buy-in from senior leaders. As I mentioned, kind of this bringing technology from home, folks are energized, but they're not sure, what the culture is, what the appetite is, what the viewpoint is from senior leadership. So one of the areas in which we advise our partners is make sure that you have both kind of the top down figured out, but also the bottom up figured out as well. The other piece that we're seeing from a personnel perspective is around governance. So having a strategy as to the do's, the don'ts, the tools that you can use with your corporate data, the tools that you should use in your personal life, but not with your corporate data, kind of a plan for folks to experiment and how to conduct those experiments properly and how to sunset those experiments properly. Many of our customers are overwhelmed with the requests that they're getting from end users. And this governance piece really helps enable them and empower them to say, I'm not saying no, I'm saying how. It's really good feedback for our partners to focus there. The other piece is around data, right? So focusing on good data, right? You get out what you put in. And so making sure that you start with a data source that you trust, always checking the results of your AI model and making sure you're getting results that you expect. Having someone that is kind of the steward over not only the technology but also kind of the use, to make sure there's not drift going on as far as the responses, but really understanding the data and the implications of the data that you're putting in. Is another area that I'd say our partners can really help. It's both a risk, and also an opportunity.
That's so true. And we just delivered some new partner training around governance, best practices, around implementation. There's so much to stay on top of right now, especially in this industry space. How do you recommend partners really stay up to date on what's happening in manufacturing with Microsoft?
A couple of the things that I do personally is follow the Microsoft blogs on AI and the respective co-pilots, right? Each of our leaders is sharing real time the advancements that we're making, not only from a technology perspective, but also the use cases that our customers are finding the most value from. I also look at our kind of consultant ecosystem as well and kind of cherry pick on what's going on in the space. It's been incredible to see the diversity of viewpoints and kind of the sharing that's going on within the partner ecosystem, especially when it comes to manufacturing. And the resources that you mentioned are also resources that I leverage quite a bit.
Jesse, you shared so much valuable information with us today. What are 3 key takeaways you want to make sure that folks watching and listening really understand about this space?
My 3 main takeaways would be focus on the customer, right? So that's kind of our guiding light is the customer initiatives, and understanding what their business challenges are kind of from the senior levels. Focus on education. So this space is changing so much every day. And then focus on the people, right? So with all of the transitions that we have with technology, kind of zooming into the individual that you're going to be enabling or impacting, and kind of thinking through that, is critical with the change that's taking place.
That's really the heart of all of our people first strategy across Microsoft, really making that person the center of the transformation that's happening around them. It also builds tremendous relationships. We want to thank Jesse for joining us and giving us his insight on manufacturing and AI.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
My name's Karuana Gatimu. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
And that wraps up today's episode. Don't forget that this episode is a part of a series featuring some of our most experienced and innovative global executives, packed full of great insights and examples of how to make the most out of working alongside Microsoft. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our other episodes. No matter your industry or area of focus, the Microsoft Global Partner Enablement Team is here to enable you and your teams to achieve more. If you want to hear a little more of this episode, we have a podcast which has some more of our discussion and some bonus content. If there's an area of cloud innovation you'd like to hear more about, please send us a note at salesenablement-gsi@microsoft.com so that we can create content that meets your enablement needs. Thank you for listening, thank you for engaging with us, and thank you for being a Microsoft partner. We'll see you on the next episode of the Microsoft Cloud Executive Enablement Series.